So no bits at the start. I have two administrative notes. One, if you listen to the last episode on Walk Hard, which kicked off our month on music movies, it's May Music Month. I noted many times that I was going to be putting timestamps in the description to say when we stopped talking about Beau is Afraid, so people could skip forward if they didn't want spoilers. And I didn't do that. So
whoopsie.
I did notice, and I put them in a few days later. But if you listen to the first few days, you probably kept hitting that 30 seconds forward, and you were probably surprised that we talked about Beau is Afraid for 17 minutes. But so I'm sorry that you had to hit it 34 times. But it's there now. In case you were like, I'm not going to do this until he puts in the timestamps, they're there now.
Go back and listen again, and now you'll have the timestamps.
And this isn't like a smooth transition, but the writers have struck. The WGA is on strike right now, and solidarity and all that. And
your writer is not on strike?
No. As you know, I don't know how to start the podcast, so it'll either be something like a call for labor unity and an apology for the last episode, or something more like, welcome to Late to the Movies. My name is Ben Holton. This is a podcast where my friends and I get to fill in our movie blind spots. Each week, we'll pick a movie that either I or a guest hadn't seen before and really should have by now. This week, continuing May Music Month, a month-long look at not musicals, but movies about music or heavily featuring it. It's Scott Pilgrim versus the World, Edgar Wright's 2010 Michael Cera starring. Really good movie. I don't know what the last noun would have been there. I couldn't think of one. Anyway, my guest, left to right across your podcast style this week, we got Ray.
Hi.
Greg.
Hey.
Martha.
Hi.
And Robbie.
Hey.
Using his normal voice as always.
My normal voice.
Yeah, this writer's strike, guys. What do we think?
This
Krusty Krab is unfair.
We'll kick it around.
This is a good movie to do during the writer's strike because from what I'm aware of, there weren't any writers for the movie because it's just the book. So this is okay to do. We're not what is it? Scabs or something?
Word.
Yeah. Brian Lee O'Malley, very much involved, like on set every day, working closely with Edgar Wright. So I think that still counts as a writer involved. But yeah, no, these studios, they should give the writers enough money to live. They want to replace all writers and actors with AI because they don't understand how art works and what people like about it.
Oh yeah, that ChatGPT, great work. I'd put them in charge of all the scripts.
That's what they want. That was one of the things that they wouldn't agree to, was not using AI instead of writers. So
ChatGPT won't even write me a rude email. I can't imagine if I asked it to go through a picket line.
Oh my god! So then they're gonna need like some kind of ChatGPT unlocked, and I don't want to see what that looks like.
Anyway, as always, the bosses. That's the official company line.
Coming from the guy who doesn't pay us,
Right?
This is. I mean, I pay the world in general. I lose money on this, as I always say. So. You're making out better than I am.
That sounds like what a lot of bosses say. I feel like Jeff Bezos has a similar bit.
He's losing money on it.
Pay no attention to the record profits and the $200 million salary I'm drawing. I'm making less money than ever.
Typical.
So yeah.
He did just buy a new car.
This is
Late
true.
to the movies is unfair.
I only had to borrow some of the money from my mom. So, what do you guys?
How you expected this to start?
Yes, honestly, yeah. Pretty much right on target. What have you guys been watching lately? Before we get into the movie,
I recently rewatched WALL-E. I showed it to my kid. And I forgot that I think that is like one of Pixar's best movies. So
I was just talking about WALL-E. I really want to show it to my kids.
Yeah, we had like shown it to Ren when she was too little to really understand anything other than like, oh, this is the TV on. We showed her this time and she was real into it. So
yeah, it's what, the first 35, 40 minutes don't really have dialogue, something like that.
WALL-E.
Yeah, but it's like a robot just doing stuff, and so it's a lot of questions like, what's he doing? Why is he doing that? Wow, where is he?
So you add your own dialogue if you're of a certain age.
Yes,
that makes sense. Yeah, that movie is great. It's out now in the Criterion Collection. Anybody else watching anything recently?
I read 54 Animorph books.
Are you done with Animorphs yet?
I'm done with all the Animorphs. I can Animorph now.
Yeah, you figure out the secret at the end of book 54.
Yeah, like if once you've read all of them, you're just like, I get it now. But once you've had that responsibility, like you have to, you need a reason to use it, and it hasn't arisen yet. So
Yeah.
if there's like a kid in danger or something, and you see me like flash off as like a hawk or something, it's gonna be me.
Yeah, I mean, what else is new though?
You know,
Yeah.
same old, same old.
Have you watched anything? You don't have to have, but
No,
just in
I've
case.
been doing reruns, if that's allowed.
Absolutely.
Reruns of Outlander, prepping for season 7.
Nice.
But yeah, that's what I've been watching because I think the season 7's coming out this summer.
Okay.
It's a great show.
I'm sure it is. It's the showrunners Ronald Moore who did the Battlestar Galactica reboot, which I love, and for some reason I haven't watched Outlander. But it looks good. The main lady in it is in other stuff that I like, I think.
Yes. Although I can never really pronounce her name. Katarina Balfe?
Balfe, yeah, she was in Belfast. You
Yes.
guys watched Belfast?
Yes.
She was the lady
She's the
who
leading
didn't get
lady.
nominated instead of Judi Dench's like 3 scenes. Whatever. No one remembers Belfast. It's fine. I watched a few things recently, but most, I guess, current. I watched the new Guardians of the Galaxy movie earlier today.
How was it?
Oh,
I loved it. Yep.
That's
Really?
on my to-do list.
Yep.
Wow.
I don't want to, I mean, I don't think any of you have seen it, so I
No.
don't want to spoil anything.
did that like just come out?
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of out on Marvel, so I wasn't really planning on seeing it.
Yes, I am too. I haven't wanted to go see a Marvel movie for a while. The last one I actually did go see was Thor: Love and Thunder, which I thought ate my, I don't know.
So how does it rank with the other Guardian movies?
Like
rank 1, 2, 3.
2, 1, 3.
Okay, well I didn't like 2, so I don't know.
Ooh, you might not like this because
Okay.
it's a lot more
You
like
didn't
2.
like 2? How come?
I just didn't think it lived up to 1.
Mm.
Yeah,
I'm in the same boat there, honestly.
it's not. As,
No, I mean, I felt the same way. Like 1 was just one like made classic. That was
Yes.
it was just that was a classic. Put it in
The-
a box and save it.
it's
The
a
other was like
classic
trying to be
adventure
classic.
team up.
Yes. Yeah, I was trying too hard.
Yeah.
The music
2
wasn't as good too.
Yeah.
2 is more of a personal kind of like open-ended story, not as much of like an adventure thing. And then 3 is similar, though there is more of like a mission, I guess. I don't want to be too spoilerific, so because this movie just came out. Yeah, I liked it a lot. I think it was really good. My sister said she cried 7 times. So a
Interesting.
lot of good jokes too.
Okay.
Not saying if they were because she was laughing so hard or because she was sad, but
I mean, I cried at one Marvel movie. It was the last Avengers movie. I cried.
sure.
But that was like in 2018. I think that was the last time I seen
18 or
Marvel
19,
movie.
yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's it was really good. I liked it a lot. And it was also like definitely had the realization as it was ending, like I don't know the next time I'm going to see a Marvel movie in theaters because I'm not interested in anything else they have coming up.
Yeah.
So
There.
let's talk about the movie. Who wants to give us a 1-minute plot summary for Scott Pilgrim versus the World?
Okay, ready? So, Scott Pilgrim is dating a high schooler,
Oh my god.
and he's in a band. Turns out he kind of sucks. He sees a girl that he wants to date instead of this high schooler, Ramona Flowers. He starts chasing after her. It turns out she has a bunch of ex-boyfriends who have formed the League of Evil Exes, and Scott's going to have to fight them all now for Ramona. We kind of follow him along in a kind of comic booky formatted adventure here as he fights these kind of superpowered video game battles against these evil exes while he's also doing the Battle of the Bands. This kind of culminates with the person who they're trying to get to sign them being the final evil X. Scott's got to go fight him. In the end, he manages to kind of patch up a lot of these shitty things he's done, relationships he's kind of ruined with girls and other friends and things like that. And he is able to kind of defeat this last evil X and win Ramona. They almost kind of part ways in the end. And then Scott realizes that he wants to be with Ramona and that they're kind of a good match and they kind of have everything patched up and they go off through some magical door because kind of weird.
Yeah.
Scene.
Scene. Let's go around the horn. I've seen this movie a whole bunch of times. It's one of the movies I've seen most in my lifetime, including the re-release a couple years ago. I saw it in theaters 3 times and then at home a whole bunch of other times. How about you guys?
Yeah, I've seen it a ton of times.
Yeah.
Yes, I've seen it the same amount of times. We actually saw it like in theaters, and it's like 2 weeks it was in theaters before it bombed out of the theaters.
Yeah.
Oh, and this was my very first time.
Yay.
Woo!
So we can keep doing the podcast.
Huzzah!
I've seen it a good amount of times, and I feel like it's gone from a movie that I kind of enjoyed to this most recent time. I was like, this might be my favorite movie in the world.
This is like my comfort movie. Like when I need like comfort, I put it on and I watch it.
I see why.
Mhm.
I see why.
It's gonna be real awkward if you didn't like it.
All right, so listen, guys. When you first asked me, I remember Derek was like, "You're not gonna like this movie," and I was like, "This is gonna suck." Then, and then we ended up watching it, and I absolutely loved it.
Yay.
I thought it was hilarious.
All right, Scott Pilgrim haters, this is not the episode for you.
No, I mean, I just watched it like 2 weeks ago too, because it was like leaving Netflix or something. So I was expecting on this watch, I was like, oh, I'm not even going to want to pay attention. Like, I just watched this. I hate rewatching movies. And I was just as into it as I was 2 weeks ago.
I knew it was on Netflix, and I went to Netflix. I was like, "Where is it?"
It's on Peacock now.
Yeah, and when I searched for it, like a random title came up, like in like Helvetica font, no colors. It just said Scott Pilgrim versus the World, and
That's
I
what
clicked
Netflix
on it,
does.
and there was nothing there. It was just like more
Yeah.
like this, and I was like,
Oh,
But
"What
they
is
got your
this?"
clicks for advertising.
They did.
Yeah. They got to hoard all that money and not pay writers. You've seen it a bunch too. The same amount, you think?
Oh yeah, I've seen
Definitely.
it. Almost exactly the same amount. I love this movie.
Yeah.
It's just so funny. It like really is my exact sense of humor. This movie.
Yeah, same.
We loved it even the first time we saw this thing in theaters.
It was pretty poorly reviewed and didn't do well in box offices, but I think we were freshman year in high school, freshman year in college rather. I think I was like 19 when it came out, 2010. And it's
I was a sophomore.
yeah, so that makes sense. And it's just like perfectly attuned to, I think, our generation's sensibilities. And I think, I mean, like a lot of Edgar Wright movies, the pacing is really fast and kinetic. And I think if you're like an old guy who didn't grow up with the internet or playing video games, then it's probably pretty incomprehensible to you the way this movie looks.
That's fair.
Is that why this thing bombed? Like, what happened? Because
That's not great word of mouth. And we'll get into it more, but it was Michael Cera fatigue a lot also.
Well, that was part of the reason why I wasn't sure if I was going to like it, because I didn't really love a lot of the other movies that he was in. It's just that those kind of movies were really not my style. So when I found out he was in it, I was like, it's going to be one of those movies. And I think that's why Derek's like, you're not going to like it. But Derek was kind of like you, Robbie, where he was like, I don't really remember liking it. And this time he was like, why did I not like it? This movie was fantastic.
Yeah, tell him to watch it a third time, and he's going to be like, this movie is one of the best movies that was. Because
Okay.
you watch it again, and I'm like, every part of this movie was so perfectly crafted. Like, every bit is so interconnected. and
Crafted
just
is the
like,
right word.
Yeah.
Crafted is the right
like
word.
carefully. Every second of that movie was carefully put together, and it all
With 10 layers of audio, all doing something interesting.
Well, and it goes so fast that you know you're gonna miss something. So like I'm looking forward to watching it again and being like, oh, I didn't catch it that
there are
time.
still things
Yes.
that as we're watching, I'm like, oh, I've never noticed this before. This
Yeah.
time, for some random reason, I think one of the kids woke up at some random part, and we just hit pause. And when I did, I noticed there was just like a big X in the background that I was like, oh, I've never noticed. And I noticed there's a lot of them.
Yeah,
But I was
There's
like,
a
I've never
bunch.
seen this one, and this one's fucking huge.
There's X's and hearts all over the background of this movie if you watch it closely.
I just
Oh.
I just can't understand how this movie bombs so hard when I love it so much. Like
Yeah.
I
I
feel
think
like
people just don't have that kind of sense of humor.
I don't know. I think
I think it is quite popular with people our age now.
Well, it's a cult. It could be considered a cult movie, right?
I think
much, yeah.
Ray was working at the theater at the time, and I think she said her theater, which is like one of the biggest ones like locally that's not in like, Boston or like highest volume. And I think she said they had it for 1 week and they dropped it. They
Yeah.
made it 1 week.
Well, what was it competing
I saw it in
against?
I saw it at Regal in Swansea too. Well, I think I mean, not even jokingly, I said Michael Cera fatigue. So this is probably a good entry point. 2007, he has Superbad and Juno. 2008's Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist. 2009, Year One and Youth in Revolt, and then 2010 Scott Pilgrim. And he's like a legit near A-lister for a while, especially among people our age. He was our Austin Butler. And just a fun joke. And and then I think people were just like, this guy has the most punchable face. I don't want to see him as the romantic lead in an action movie. This is just a step too far. And of course, if you watch the movie, that's the point, is that he's actually an asshole.
Yeah, he's supposed to suck.
Yeah, is he kind of sucks and shouldn't be the romantic lead, but sees himself as this main character in a movie.
Okay.
And there isn't really he is the main character, and I get that. It doesn't feel like there's a ton of Michael Cera focus, though. You know, like, because there's always other stuff. Like, it's never just Michael Cera. I feel like if you counted up his lines too, he probably doesn't dominate like the. No, I don't know.
It feels like it's pretty focused on Michael Cera.
It is. Maybe he just doesn't talk a lot. That's why I'm
I
not.
think it's because you don't.
There's a lot of characters.
Well, there's a lot. It's a
Big
really good.
ensemble.
It's a really good cast too.
The cast is pretty stacked, and I think most of the time with Michael Cera in a movie, he has this like vibe that almost doesn't match with the rest of the movie. A lot of times, like he is his own kind of thing.
Yeah,
but he matches really well with this movie, so you don't get that feeling.
Yeah,
that
all the
awkward,
time.
like
Because the whole movie is so weird and it's kind of on his level, so you don't notice it as much. I feel like.
yes.
I kind of disagreed with you because it was funny, but I see what you mean. Is that like it is? The world feels so lived in, and like that he's just a part of it. That it's not like here's this guy who's sticking out and weird and quirky. Like everyone is on that.
Yeah, it's not like Juno where you're like, now I have to watch Michael Cera for like an hour and a half straight, and it's like Michael Cera.
Yeah, I think that's the good way to put it, Ben. He doesn't stick out because everything kind of has that weird quirkiness to it.
It's all in Edgar Wright speed and Bryan Lee O'Malley's.
Him and Aubrey Plaza are like chocolate and peanut butter. They're such like a fantastic.
That is the best way to put it with those two.
Yes, and apparently they started dating right around this.
Did they? Oh my god! I would love to just like watch them date as like.
How do you do that with your mouth?
Don't worry about my mouth.
But yeah, this cast
for
list
Fuck
is
Pilgrim.
fucking stacked in this movie.
So were you surprised at all the famous people in this
Yes,
movie?
I was looking up the cast before, and
Yes.
I also just really appreciated that they were rolling the credits before the movie.
Yeah.
You just don't
Great
ever
credit sequence.
you don't ever see that in newer movies. So I just love the shout out of like old cartoon like Batman, like here are all the credits beforehand. And the names just kept coming. So and I absolutely love Aubrey Plaza. So she wasn't in it as much as I wanted her to be in it, but every single time she's in it, she nailed it. And I was so pumped to have
They
her.
got good timing. So they have Anna Kendrick sign on before the Twilight movies come out.
Okay.
They get Aubrey Plaza to sign on before Parks and Rec comes out.
Oh man.
Brie Larson, Academy Award winner Brie Larson is 19 when they film this.
Incredible.
She just like auditions. I guess like
It's awesome.
Brandon Routh, who plays Todd, the third evil ex, he had already been Superman. So Chris Evans had already been Human Torch, but hadn't been Captain America, or he is Captain America in 2010 for the first time, or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Avengers doesn't come out till 2012 either way. But yeah, I mean, then we already mentioned Kieran Culkin, Michael Cera, Mary Elizabeth Winstead, we haven't said yet, plays Ramona.
And who is Gideon?
Jason Schwartzman.
Schwartzman. That's right.
Yep, stacked. I noticed, and I know this isn't really indicative of anything, but in the end credits, Mary Elizabeth Winstead's like 10th. And I was like, wow.
Yeah, they probably didn't pay her very much, I guess, if that's the case.
She's definitely the like least recognizable for me of like all the people. Like I feel like she looks familiar. I couldn't place her what else she's in because that's Ramona,
Sky
right?
High was when I saw this movie, my big pull for her was probably she's the main villain in Sky High.
Okay.
Spoiler alert.
That's
She's the love interest for the first half of the movie.
She's in a lot of shit, actually.
She's married to Ewan McGregor.
Yes.
Oh, is she really?
I think that's kind of a recent thing, right? Last
he's-
couple of years.
He's
Well, they just got married.
Yeah, it's pretty
In
recent.
2022, she was married
Yeah,
to
yeah,
Riley
yeah.
Stearns before.
yeah, good for them.
Yes. Then Birds of Prey. Did anyone else see that?
No, I knew she was in that one, though.
She's in that. She's good in that. It's an underrated movie. It's pretty good.
Mm.
And you're expecting like the DC movies to all be bad, and that one was pretty good.
Fair.
No
And
way.
the villain was Ewan McGregor. I think they met on that movie.
Oh, okay.
Scandalous.
Know who always sticks out to me in this movie, and I don't even know his name, and he's got like 2 scenes. It's the guy who knows everybody in town, and he's the IT guy from The Office.
Yes.
You watch New Girl.
Yes. Yeah. Robbie.
Robbie, yeah.
Yeah.
Wait,
Yes, Robbie,
he was in
you've
New
watched New
Girl?
Girl.
Yeah,
He's Robbie.
He's Robbie.
It's Robbie.
What?
Yeah, he's in a bunch of things. I love that guy so much.
It's funny because I don't know who he is, but in The Office, they don't know his name. So
Yes.
always like, it's like something weird.
Oh,
Yeah, he's
I
in a
remember
million
him.
things.
Yeah.
I thought he looked familiar. I kept saying, I was like, I know this guy.
Yeah.
He's in
And I
like
love
2
New
scenes
Girl.
and he
Yeah.
says something incomprehensible in both scenes or something. So if you like the first one, the first one's even better or something like
Their
ridiculous.
first record's much better than their first record.
Something like that.
It's a good cast.
It's a good
It's
cast.
wicked good.
Alison Pill.
Yes, Alison Pill from
Every-
Newsroom and a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah, I loved her in Newsroom, so I was really pumped to see her in this.
They must have got a bargain on this cast.
Yeah, they got him young. They got him before they were in their biggest things for the most part. Aside from, like I said, I guess literally Brandon Routh would be the only one because he had already been in the Kevin Spacey Superman movie.
Wow, that movie is that old?
Yeah,
When did that come out?
2004 or 5, something like that, right?
I feel old all of a sudden.
But yeah, so they get all these people super young, and I guess Kieran Culkin, as a child actor, had been in some other stuff too.
Yeah.
But Brandon Routh and Chris Evans are the only ones that had made like action movies before. So they have like a boot camp kind of thing where all the young people are coming in, 8 a.m. or whatever every morning to this giant warehouse. If you watch the behind the scenes stuff, where they have all like just basically like training stuff going on. And everyone's doing it. They started seeing it as like a team building activity. So like Edgar Wright is also participating in like the kung fu training that they're all doing, because most of them are doing like their own wire work and some of their own fight choreography too.
The fight choreography in this movie is so good.
It
It's,
is.
like,
I was so
unbelievable. I love
surprised by it.
Yeah. So Mary Elizabeth Winstead has a background as a dancer, so she was like actually good at it, but pretty much no one else had any kind of movement background. But that's actually Michael Cera doing a lot of the non-impact choreography.
Yeah, I thought it was funny because in the fight with Chris Evans, where he has all the stunt doubles, like it's clearly a stunt double for Michael Cera
Yeah.
fighting the stunt doubles.
Yes. When they're doing like jumping spin kicks and like actually falling down and stuff, it's stunt doubles. But
Yes.
I love that they do that, and then they do like the whole scene, and then he turns away, and instead of like showing the rest of the fight, he's like, "Okay, yep," and I did that, and they're all beat up now. Like I just. There's a lot of times where you're like, "Oh, that's lazy," or blah 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 blah. It's like, no, that was perfect. That's exactly how you finish that.
yeah. Let's get into the plot a little bit. So this movie starts with, do you guys know who does the voiceovers? Like the narration that happens just a few times throughout the movie?
No.
Bill Hader.
Oh, that's
No
fantastic.
way.
Yeah. So just another very much more famous now than in 2010 person.
Yes.
This movie really does start so perfect. Like
Yes.
Scott Pilgrim is dating a high schooler.
Yep.
Scott, are you dating a high schooler?
Yeah.
The book starts the exact same way
Yes.
with the
Except
exact
that
same like scene.
Scott Pilgrim in the books is 23 instead of 22, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. So I guess it's a little bit tighter, but
Is the
Not by
movie
a lot.
like verbatim, like the exact same as the book, or did they do like a Hollywood spin on it?
It's been a long time since I've read the books, but I just read the first one right before you guys came here, and it's like almost exactly the same.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Just, like the shots are like almost exactly the same, like a lot of the
Yes.
artwork and like
oh, that's
yeah.
awesome.
I know they specifically tried to like line up a lot of shots because Brian Lee O'Malley based a lot of the illustrations on actual places in the neighborhood of Toronto he grew up near.
Ray mentioned, and she showed me that all the little cutaways they do where Ramona explains like her previous relationships, and they're like hand drawn. It's just the book.
Yeah.
It's legit. That's the book.
That's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah. It was really important to Edgar Wright to have O'Malley like there approving the look of a lot of things, if not everything.
And O'Malley's the person who wrote the.
Mm-hmm.
It's awesome.
Which isn't normally the relationship between a filmmaker and the source material.
Yes. Yeah. Pretty much never.
Pretty much never. Yeah. Peter Jackson didn't even talk to J.R.R. Tolkien before he made
Wow,
Lord of the Rings.
What a dick.
I know. It's crazy.
Seances.
Yeah. So yeah, it starts with Scott Pilgrim is dating a high schooler, and then you get that first practice session that leads into the opening credits, and it's just great. It's loud and fast right off the bat, and there's stuff happening on screen with the visuals and the text on screen.
I really like getting to see the credits there, and someone else did that to me recently in a movie, and I almost went to their house and killed them. But this movie does it better.
Whose house?
Elvis.
Tar starts by giving you the credits. I was so mad.
Yeah, but that's all the credits,
It's
not
all
just
the
the
credits,
actors
and
and
there's
like
it's
main
just like
producers and shit.
black screen. This one is like
This one's like colorful and pretty quick.
It's a great start to the movie, and you're right in it. So the music in this, for the most part, they did a pretty interesting thing. So they bring in Nigel Godrich, who is sort of like the house producer for Radiohead. He's like the fifth Beatle of Radiohead, basically. And he does the composing and also a lot of the music coordination. I don't know if that's the term, but they do an interesting thing where the bands are, for the most part, all matched up with an actual musical artist to do just the music for them. So all the Sex Baba music is Beck.
That's really funny.
Yeah. And like Metric does Clash of Demon Head.
So I was gonna say, like, it's funny because the music all feels like good enough to be real music, but clearly
Yes.
not. And that's Beck.
Rude.
Ouch.
So yeah, this is specifically, they wanted someone who has been part of the kind of like grungy thing, and that's, you know, where Beck started in the 90s. So Beck does
Really
basically
pumped about
like
that joke.
demo versions of these songs, just really kind of dirty garage style, like over the weekend or whatever, because he's such a prolific writer, and they pretty much just use those demos. So it's not like they re-record with the actors. It's just Beck singing anytime Steven Stills is singing.
It's good. They did a good job with the music. I really enjoy it.
Right on my garbage truck kind of slaps, right?
Truck.
truck.
Boom, 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 boom.
Launchpad McQuack.
Yeah, we're not settled on that title.
We named one of our kids ducks Launchpad McQuack.
Nice. Yeah, and then he starts having dreams about Ramona before even meeting her.
Ramona.
Well, that's kind of her fault though, because she's using his head.
Yeah, she's in the subspace highway through his head.
Yeah.
There's like a few things in this movie that are just like so weirder than the rest. And it's the subspace highway and the doors.
The doors were weird.
It's so weird. I don't mind it at all because it's just like the whole movie's weird.
It's fine.
But those are just like so weird.
It's extra.
I mean, multiple people die and turn into coins. It's like, what do you want, dude?
There's so many things though that like that makes no sense, but it does make sense. Like
Yeah,
a
the
lot of
doors
like
make
it
sense,
like
yeah.
it makes perfect sense of the movie universe, and then they're like also there's these doors, and you're like, fine, yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's okay.
It's kind of just how Scott sees things. It's just an abstraction of his worldview, right?
Okay, all right.
I don't know.
No, I can see that. I don't think that's actually what's happening, but I like the interpretation.
Yeah, the
Oh.
couple times doors pop up, it's like some decision being made about his relationship with Ramona or whatever.
So yeah, like I think there should be a door. It's warm and it's our house or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, but she did like zip around through. She uses this. I don't know. Okay,
Yeah.
interesting.
I don't know. The door thing had a Monster Inc. vibe for me, or also it was just like door, like plopped, like it's a monster.
And they're in
coming
some little
out.
kid's room and they're scaring them. Yeah. It's
Exactly.
like, so then there's I love the party scene, Julie's party, Aubrey Plaza playing her party. The party scene's so good. There's I think probably the whole movie is basically burned into my brain, but I feel like that's one of the sequences that I could probably do line by line.
Him holding up the drawing like kills me every time.
Yes, that's Ramona Flowers.
Yes, that is Ramona Flowers.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
it so much.
I'm gonna go pee due to boredom, which is like exactly the kind of thing this guy would say.
There is like the peeing and stuff remind me. There's a lot of video game music in this, but there's a particular lot of like Zelda music.
Yes, there is a lot of Zelda music and a lot of like Gideon's symbol is just the Triforce
Yes.
and stuff like that. Yeah.
Mhm.
It's so
That
good, though.
might have been cost them more than their actors.
Yeah, I think like when he leaves the bathroom and is a dream sequence, it's just the fairy fountain music from Zelda.
It's just the fairy fountain
Yeah.
music. Yep.
Yep. It probably did cost quite a bit of money. Nintendo famously very cheap with their licensing. You can just throw a Mario in whatever you want according to box
Anything,
office
yeah.
receipts.
Yeah, you just have to give Nintendo a 30-year salary for the rest
Yeah.
of your life.
Exactly. And your firstborn. So this, yeah, that happens pretty early, and then he's like, having all the daydreams about Ramona and stuff. And I guess like before that, you see him hanging out with knives and they're doing the ninja game and stuff. But it's just weird. He's dating a 17-year-old. He shouldn't be doing that. He's an adult.
It's so weird. And like the first scene too, when he's talking to his friends and explaining it.
We almost held hands one time, but she got embarrassed.
Yeah, she got embarrassed. I think what's the singer in the band? What's his name?
Steven
says he says something about it, like when he said I'm dating a high schooler, he's like, oh, that's cool or something. And like I think right off the bat it's great too, because Kim is immediately just like how she is the whole movie, and I just love her.
Yeah,
she's like one of the best characters.
She is. She's just consistent the entire time. I loved her.
Yeah.
Like, because she's immediately like hating on him, and like it takes you a while to realize, like, oh, Scott kind of sucks. Like, yeah, you kind of should treat him like this.
Well, like Wallace, like calling his sister and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, why is she always on his back? And it's like, because he's always being shitty. Like, he's just always being shitty.
Yes.
And his sister's like, what is her name in this? Stacy. Just she's probably my favorite. I love Aubrey Plaza's character, but I love the sister so much too. Just like the very quick blurbs, she hits so hard every time.
She's so good, yeah, but she's not in much. She only has like 3 scenes. But she's great.
Academy Award nominee Anna Kendrick.
Yep.
I mean, she's great in like the couple scenes in the coffee shop, and she's great in the one scene at the Battle of the Bands.
My
He just has so many friends.
Yeah. Yes.
And how did you meet? It's great. Yeah, so there's all this stuff with Ramona after the party and whatnot, and then he's ordering stuff from Amazon.
Wallace, guys, we need to talk about Wallace. I think Wallace is my favorite
Wallace
character.
is the best.
So
Wallace
great.
is
It's
the
amazing
best
in this movie.
character. I absolutely loved him from the beginning.
Yeah. He's fantastic. I love his.
He's so good. Him being like asleep and he's got the phone. How did he do that?
How are you doing that? So I took notes too. I was gonna bring them, and I realized it's all just one-liners. It was a full page of just one-liners.
Honestly, the whole time I was watching this, I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna do a podcast and not be like, hey, remember when this happened, guys? It was really funny.
That's what happens anytime we do a comedy.
Yeah, remember this? It was really funny.
At least this
guys.
has some like stuff to it too.
Fair.
Some of the movies we're doing this month that are coming.
A lot of their jokes are like that though, where it's like just some quick cut or something like that. They're all very snappy, and I don't know, that just they all hit for me.
But that's why I want to rewatch it, because I feel like there are some that like I just didn't have time to catch it because we were already on the next.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
It just happened so quickly.
And sometimes the joke is like being said, but also there's a funnier joke in the background. And if you're just
Yes.
like listening, you're not going to see that like there's like a massive, like even, I don't know. It's so great.
The third time I saw it in theaters was the first 2 times were when it came out in 2010. And then after, quote unquote, after COVID, it got re-released with a new Dolby audio track into some theaters. And I went to go see it in a Dolby theater. And it was real loud, shaking the chairs and stuff. And I picked up on so many sounds and stuff that I had never heard before. There's just so much in there. It's crazy.
Yeah, there's a lot going on, especially like, even just like all the little video game sounds it makes. Some of them are like kind of quiet. Like it's really hard to hear some of them.
Yeah. You need a good, it really gives your speakers a workout in a good way. All the dynamic ranges. And it gets real loud, dialogue to music. But I guess that's intentional.
I've had that riff stuck in my head all day, like the.
Yeah, me too. It's hard not to, especially because it comes. I think it's the opening credits, and then it's like the final battle in the Chaos Theater.
Yep.
And then it's quicker the second time in the final battle in the Chaos Theater.
Scott has learned the power of self-worth.
Yeah. So he asks Ramona out. He throws a package behind him.
Yeah, he like holds her hostage for a signature.
Don't do this to people doing their jobs, right?
Yeah, no. He's
Poor Amazon workers.
Okay,
shitty.
I'll leave you alone forever now. And then he stalked her until she left.
Oh yeah, that's one of the images is, this one girl in text with her against the wall and then him like sliding into frame.
Yeah. I don't know if we're gonna talk.
Were you the Pac-Man guy? No, that was some other
That
guy.
was some other weird guy.
Yeah.
And it's funny too because like I noticed especially this time he gives the story so smoothly when he's talking to the 17-year-old high schooler, and then as soon as he's talking to an actual adult, he sounds like a fucking moron.
He's so stupid.
But it's great because like I know there's always like there was at different points in time discourse about the movie, and just rewatching it again with that in mind, like at every point for there to be like judging of the movie is like, no, the point is that this is shitty. Like they've just did such a good job of like, this isn't a great relation. I don't know, the 17-year-old and all that crap.
Yeah, he's dating a 17-year-old who he then cheats on with like another girl. Like he's not supposed to be like some role model character
For sure.
That he was
But
being
you-
super creepy with before.
But you feel confused watching it for the first time because you're like, I'm supposed to like this guy. Like he's the lead in it. And then like you hear more of the story and then you don't piece it together. Like I didn't piece it together until he was like, I cheated on her. And I was like, you motherfucker, you actually did. Why didn't I not think of that earlier? Because you're like, because the movie
he's
moves
kind of
so
silly
fast.
and goofy and like it's all quick and like
And it's all
It's
in his
fun.
perspective too.
Yeah, it's all-
Exactly.
Yeah. That he
Then-
sees himself as the hero of this story.
Yeah.
But it turns out he's just kind of being a dick.
The perspective too, where he's like, I cheated. He was like, oh, I didn't cheat on you. And he's like, well, I guess I did. And I like,
yeah.
well, it was different because I didn't wrong you.
You weren't wronged, right?
like,
But I
that's
think
just-
that's
and
one
then,
of the
he,
reasons.
and then he gets murdered.
Yes, I think that's one of the reasons I like Kim so much too. When you do rewatches, because she's like there from the beginning to show you like, no, I'm right. Like Scott sucks. Like from the beginning, you're like, oh, this is how Kim feels. How you should feel about Scott. The
Pretty
whole movie.
much.
And then, like,
Yeah.
so they do the whole question of, like, would you work for someone, blah, 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 blah. Could you put the feelings aside? Like, they bring that up. And then it gets to the end, and he's like, I want to sign you. And he's like, no, I can't work for Gideon. He wronged me too hard. And Kim's still in the fucking background, who has been working with his ass since day one and never made a peep about any of that shit.
Yeah.
And I just, this is the first time I, like, put together that whole, like, yeah, Kim's never been like, I don't want to work with this asshole.
Yeah, so I think even before he gets I think it's even before he gets the Amazon package is he gets the first email from an evil X where he says, "This is
That's the
boring."
When he's
and the
going
emails
on
from
to
the first
Amazon
X.
CA.
yeah. What's the web address for Amazon.ca?
Well, and I love in the quote too, like what wasn't it Wallace or it was Wallace or Scott that were like, amazing what you could do with computers. And I was just like, wait a minute, when was this movie made?
Yeah, 2010. Well, it's Canada. It's basically like an iMac just came out because it's Canada, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. And then the package comes and
Wait, real
he
quick.
throws it over his shoulder, and he actually had to do that.
Oh, yeah, how many tries did that take?
They're all in on the Blu-ray. I think it was like 30 something.
They
You
couldn't.
see him like resetting it. And he's like, "Oh god, did that go in? No, okay."
There was no movie magic they could do for that, huh?
They could have, but I think Edgar Wright likes doing stuff in camera. Like they could have. He throws it and it goes like out of the set, and then someone drops it directly from above or something.
Yes,
But no, it's actually him throwing it in.
but
Just like it's someone that jumps through the window later on.
yes, that's my favorite scene in the whole movie. We'll get there.
We're not there. Yet.
I'm sorry.
Before we move on, at this point we realize too that Scott and Wallace share one bed,
Yes.
which
And
is
it's
a
on the
mattress
floor.
on the floor.
Floor.
And Wallace owns everything in the apartment.
Wallace's.
Yeah.
No, Scott has a coat. It's on the hanger.
And it says that Wallace's coat is better.
Yeah.
And Scott has the picture of the two girls making out on the wall.
Which I thought was hilarious because that picture of the two girls making out like was in like every dorm room around that time too. Remember, I was just
Yeah.
like, whoa, flashback to that.
Yeah, 2010. So it makes sense. So there's speaking of in-camera stuff that Edgar Wright likes to do right around this part of the movie where he's at band rehearsal and he goes to the bathroom and like the P bar goes down. And then he goes back out the bathroom door and he's in a different set. There's no cuts there. That actually is one cut. He goes into the bathroom, they wheel that set away and bring in the lockers in like the class hallway or the school hallway set. And then he walks back out and he's on a different set.
Why? There's not really a need for that.
Yeah, but it's cool.
I guess, yeah.
It's really
It's an Edgar
cool.
Wright thing. It's cool.
And I like it too because they do that a lot in this movie where like you're just in new places suddenly. And I really like that.
Yeah.
Well, that's the comic book feel. That's how they get you with the transitions.
Yes, they do. They do a good job with that. And then all the little sound effects that show up. I really like all that stuff.
So yeah, 8:00. It says on the screen, and then he meets up with Ramona. He thought she'd be too cool to be on time. Then
It's
they
like, oh,
walk
what are you
around in
doing
the
here?
snow.
Waiting for you.
Dick move.
Yeah,
Right?
again, bad, but not a good dude.
I would have honestly, I would have left the date. I would have been like, well, screw you, man.
She's used to dating assholes, so and Scott's just not
He's just
totally
aloof.
evil. So
He's aloof.
He's
Yeah.
aloof, yeah. So they walk around in the snow for a while. Because I like that it's Canada and there's so many scenes of people just out in the snow, just on swing sets or whatever.
It's April.
Right, yeah. And this is the first time. This whole sequence is really good. I don't know why. The music's all good, the tones and vibe, and then there's the first door that they go through. They end up in her house. She does the T list thing that people like to quote.
What was it, like,
liver disaster.
Liver disaster.
Yeah,
Did you make some of those up?
yeah.
And also, that's actually the scene I have up here, and it's every single T from the comic.
Nice.
Too. I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah,
That
there's
is
a lot
great.
of things in the comic. It's just it's just the script,
Oh.
basically.
It's just the script. They try
so
to get the
funny.
look right.
That's why I said there was no writer for this movie. The book was already written, and they were just like, "Okay, here you go, guys. Just say what's in the book, please."
That
Do the
guy's the
book.
writer. You still have to adapt it and say like this person moves across the room to this part. Actors love that. You tell them exactly where to stand in the writing. Yeah, it's all good. And then they don't have sex because she doesn't want to have sex with a pilgrim, but reserves the right to change her mind. Because he just walks into her room. Again, not a good dude.
No,
But he's cold, I guess. Just looking for blankets.
Don't know where his jacket went.
Yeah. I guess you don't want to wear like a thick Canada level Parker
Inside, that's
parka
fair.
indoors.
Wait, can I make a comment too about Toronto? I thought it was hilarious. The one, I don't know where this quote was, but there was a quote where they were like, they make movies in Toronto, and which is hilarious because like they
Yeah.
make so many movies in Toronto,
Oh.
and now it's based in Toronto.
Yes.
I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah. There's so many movies that are shot in Toronto and then Toronto's standing in for New York or,
It's cheaper.
Philadelphia or whatever. But it was this one that actually just gets to be Toronto. And
I thought that
they had to
was
show like the pizza and that coffee shop's a real
funny. Yeah, they
coffee
show,
shop
like,
and
the real
stuff.
places in Toronto.
Hmm. Yeah, it's good. It's a good Toronto vibe. Then there's the first battle of the bands. Ramona's there. Knives is also there. Stacy's trying to stir up some shit. Wallace is trying to steal her boyfriend.
I love that, and she's like, "Not again."
I love that.
One thing I really
Your gay friends.
Crash and the boys show up, right?
Yeah.
And as soon
Is
as
that
I
girl
see,
a boy?
yeah, is that girl a boy too? Yes. As soon as I see Crash and the boys, I'm like, wait a second, the first Evil X isn't in there. And then I immediately remember, like, oh wait, he just shows up and fucking kills Crash and the boys.
Yes.
They win because he kills Crash.
Yeah.
They get turned into skeletons in the background.
The only battles they win are because their opponents are murdered.
I don't know why it made me laugh so hard too. When Crash and the Boys first gets mentioned, they're like, "Oh, we're going up against Crash and the Boys," and just very quietly in the background, they're like, "Who? Crash?" And they're like, "Yeah, Crash and the Boys." It's just like this very
Yeah.
quiet,
You
like
know that one band with Crash
with
and
Crash
the boys?
and the Boys, and it's like, "Oh yeah, Crash and the Boys," and I'm like, you just said Crash and the Boys 3 times. Like, I don't know. I died. It was good.
This next one goes out to the guy who keeps yelling. It's called "We Don't Like You, Please Die" or whatever. And everyone's like, "Oh, I love this one." And he grabs the guy's arm.
They have that first song that's wicked short. It's
So
like,
sad.
Not a race, guys.
Yeah.
Wallace says that, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that sequence is great. And then Matthew Patel shows up, who was also in New Girl.
Yes.
Picture him with normal
Yeah.
hair and with a beard.
Chevron?
Yeah. That's Chevron, who ends up with Taylor Swift.
Is that who?
Yeah, in New Girl.
No way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway,
Fantastic.
we're getting deep into New Girl lore on this
Oh,
episode.
Great show.
It's a great
so
show.
good.
We only reference it because you guys clearly haven't seen it because you're getting no reactions for these.
You haven't seen it?
I've never seen an episode.
New Girl's good.
Mail add it to
Girl.
the list. I really like it when Matthew Patel shows up. I think I like it too because you don't know what's gonna like. If can Scott fight people, you don't know, and then he's just like. I think Wallace
What
is
do I
yelling
do?
at him, "Bye."
Yeah. Wallace yells, "Bye."
Yes, and he's immediately like, "Oh," and everyone's like, "Whoa!" And it's like, that's the first time you see something that crazy where like, because they really just go fucking
and
nuts.
random.
Yes.
Yes.
And it looks
It's
like a
already
video
random, and it
game.
gets even more random.
Yeah, he has
There's like
mystical
anime
powers.
style,
Yes.
like or comic book style cells of them, running towards each other.
Yes.
In some kind of colorful vacuum.
Yes, it's
Yeah.
awesome.
Wait, did you not get my email? I skimmed it. You skimmed it?
You'll pay for your
Insolence.
insolence. Yes.
What's this guy's deal? Yeah, are you a pirate? Are you a pirate?
Yes.
Pirates aren't in
Right now. It's just it's good. This all the stuff that's going on here is good. I think I like that this is the first Evil X, and he like does a song, and you can tell everyone's like, this song sucks. It's like that doesn't rhyme, and like what?
Yeah, he yells at him. It doesn't even rhyme.
Song starts, and there's people in the crowd. They're like, "Oh my god,
You
what is
dated this
happening?"
guy in 7th grade.
I think that's the funniest part too, is that the Evil X's start like it's. I dated him for 2 days in 7th grade.
Yep. Yeah, makes sense. But it's a good fight scene. Goes on while it's got some parts to it. Some stuff happens.
Throws fireballs, kills Crash and the boys.
Kills Crash and the boys. And so Sex Bob wins by default.
Yep. Ramona says bye to her. Say bye to your gay friends for me.
Yeah. And then he doesn't get enough coins to take the bus, but she says she'll lend him the 11 cents. And then on the bus, on the way wherever they're going after that, if you pay attention to the backgrounds, when the camera's on Ramona, there's lights in the background that look like X's. When it's on Scott, there's lights in the background that look like hearts. And then later on in the scene, it's a pretty short scene, but then when he's like, oh, so like, are we dating? And she goes like, yeah, I guess we are. Then the lights behind her turn into hearts, and there are still hearts behind him too. Not necessary. You don't notice it unless you're looking for it, really, but it's part of it. There's just so much stuff in there.
Yeah, like I said, there's a lot of different X's that show up, especially when Scott's like, there's a lot of scenes of him just walking around Toronto.
With
and
X's,
there's a lot of X's in the background.
And a lot of zeros.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ah, now I need to rewatch it just for that.
Yeah. Everything matters. It's like packed full of stuff happening.
His drink of choice is Coke Zero, and they point that out a couple of times.
Zero. He's got the Zero shirt, the Smashing Pumpkins.
Yep.
Zero, and then a Smashing Pumpkins shirt that just says SB. It's his, initials.
Funny that this character had existed before Michael Cera as a person existed. 'Cause like, I got to the point where he's like, so there are reasons for you to hang out with me. And I'm like, I can't imagine anyone but Michael Cera saying this to someone.
Well, and that's what they started development on the film a few years before they shot it. So he was still in Arrested Development. And in the behind the scenes, I don't know if this is just the thing you say after you've made the movie, but they say like, oh, Michael Cera would be perfect for it, but he's too young. But by the time they shoot it, he's 21. But I think he's like 15 or 16 in Arrested Development. So
that makes sense.
Yeah. I know, right? Yeah. So then there's a Seinfeld sequence when he comes into the house. Yeah. First and a half, the laugh track happens. It's so good. It doesn't relate to anything,
And yet it feels natural to the movie.
and it's what Scott feels like. He feels like a kind of like a comedic sitcom guy who's like busted indoors and people are cheering for him. That's how he sees himself, at least. This is the first time that Wallace mentions Lucas Lee, is his hetero crush. Scott breaks up with Knives. Then Ramona comes over for dinner. Scott finds out bread makes you fat.
Yeah, the dinner he makes is
Just
just
gar-
the garlic,
garlic
bread, right?
It seems to be just garlic
It's just
bread.
garlic bread.
Just garlic bread eaten on the floor.
Well, they have nothing else in the apartment, really, right?
Yeah, they got nothing else. I love when Wallace is leaving after earlier in the day, Scott told him, like, so you have to leave so you're not like gaying up the place. And then he's trying to leave and Scott's like begging him to stay.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, if you mess this up, come within the hour, come
Come to the
find me at
castle.
Casa Loma.
What did he say before that? He's like, and you were worried about me gaying up a place?
Yeah.
I forgot what the...
Michael Cera's just being really whiny.
Oh.
And then he said that. And yeah, so they eat the bread, they make out a while, and then Scott freaks out because of his haircut or lack thereof.
Yes.
Bill Hader says he knows exactly how long it's been since his last
Yes,
real haircut.
those, like drawings. It was mutual. It wasn't.
That's fine. Yeah. She kicked his heart in the ass or whatever.
Yes, it's so good. And the little drawings of them come up.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, awesome.
So they go off to the castle where Lucas Lee, played by Chris Evans, is filming a new action movie.
I love Chris Evans in this movie.
He's so funny.
It's so funny.
And like I said before, to no applause, he's making fun of the kind of movies that Chris Evans is now actually making.
Give
Again,
him no
wow.
reaction.
Fine. We'll move on.
You're right, Ben. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You'd absolutely see like Ghosted as one of the like Lucas Lee movies.
Fair.
Yeah. Huh. Funny.
It's not like a joke, but I don't think it deserves complete silence.
I don't disagree.
Just like, yeah, whatever. Keep going.
It's funnier now.
Say it again.
I'm just gonna skip the whole Chris Evans part now. Screw you guys.
No, I like the Chris
And it's
Evans.
so funny, but we can't
It's
talk
so
about
funny.
it now.
I
Yeah.
actually wasn't expecting Chris Evans to be like his character to be the way he was, because I feel like I have Chris Evans in my mind as one way, and it's just Chris Evans is in Marvel. So when he comes out as just like this total douchebag of like,
I love it.
I do too. I'm totally here for it, but I was just
Yeah.
it threw me off. I was like, wait,
He's
Chris
an absolute
Evans?
D-bag.
It's a little closer to his Johnny Storm, I guess, right?
I guess, yeah. When Wallace tells him big fan, he's like, why wouldn't you be?
Yeah.
Like,
Why
oh my
wouldn't you?
God.
It's so it's so funny. He's like doing bits. He's like pretending to pick him up. Oh, we'll go get a beer. Oh, and then he's like doing that thing after he punches him with his shoulders.
It's also weird that he like punches him out and then he turns around and is like, "Hey, how you doing?"
Yeah.
He seems nice.
Yeah, well, you get the idea that like all these evil exes, none of them besides Gideon actually want to get back together with Ramona. They're just doing this
because
just because. Yeah.
Yeah, they're just evil. It's all the same story with all of them. They dated her for like a week, like 7 years ago.
Yeah. Todd is explicitly in a different relationship, but he still fights Scott.
I mean, for all we know, at the end of the email, there was like an opt-out clause that was like, and if you don't want to deal with evil exes, just reply no within the next 2 days or something like
Click
that.
here to unsubscribe.
It's like they all do seem like we're all aware we're fighting about this, right? And he's like,
Yeah. But yeah, so he kind of fights Lucas Lee. He does actually hand-to-hand combat somewhat successfully with the extras.
How many extras were there? Like 8?
I'm gonna guess there were 7 because
Oh,
they're extras.
yeah.
It
Probably.
wasn't a joke. It's probably what they did.
No, I mean, it's
You
like,
guys are laughing at the wrong time every time.
You need to get one of those applause signs. So
Yeah,
Ted Robbins
it was
like,
off.
I like when he tells them that he's needed back on set. I'm like, that's funny.
It is funny. Yeah, and then he challenges him to do a grindy thingy down that.
The way they show him doing the rail grind is so awesome, and he's like, because it gives you that like comic book like speed
Yeah.
panel, and then it just keeps cutting back to like Wallace and
Wow.
Scott.
Yeah.
Wow.
They're doing it in kilometers too, which only vaguely has meaning to me.
Yeah. It's like 300 seems like a lot of them. though.
That's like,
Like I don't really know,
80
but it's
kilometers is
Toronto.
like 50 miles.
Yeah, yeah.
It's so funny. It's
It is
so
funny.
funny. And every time it cuts back and like when he's jumping from rail to rail and it's like wicked cool and fast paced and then it's just them. Whoa.
And then he blows up at the end.
Just explodes.
Coins. And then Ramona isn't there when he like goes back and she disappeared. And so then there's a great scene back at their apartment where he says, "You know what sucks?" as he moves the magnets over to SUX. And then he turns an 8 sideways and says everything.
It's awesome.
It's so funny. It's so stupid.
This movie is a masterpiece.
No one could be ever that pathetic but weirdly confident about some parts of his character as Michael Cera. So then he gets a call from Envy, aka Natalie, aka Academy Award winner Brie Larson.
Which I did not recognize her at first.
Well, she looks different. She's also literally a teenager when she films this movie.
She looks very different in this movie.
Yeah, just totally different. It's like the eyes are the only like feature that are hers.
Yeah. And she has like, the hair is kind of specific and all the makeup and stuff, which isn't how she normally looks.
I really like that it keeps coming back to him having this ex that is like haunting him.
Yeah.
Because like, I don't know, because even the plot with Natalie is resolved pretty early.
Yes.
And it doesn't come really back up, but I don't know. I like that that's like this looming thing for him.
It's also kind of parallel where like he's being haunted by an ex and Ramona's also being haunted by these exes. So I actually liked that there was a parallel story there. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
That's exactly like, because I didn't even, so until you started saying that, I made that connection. And it's really, really funny that his being haunted by an ex is that like, she moved on or like she cheated on him or whatever. But like Ramona's being haunted by her exes as they're like literally stalking the men she's trying to date in the future and they have to fight to the death.
Well, and also
like these are the same.
Well, also, I feel like when we don't really know this, but for Knives, like he could be haunting Knives. I mean, kind of is. And that's why like she keeps coming back too, because he cheated on her.
Yeah.
So it's just like this continual like be haunted by exes kind of story.
Well, and I was going to say, and I think they make that pretty literal because this scene ends with Knives is at the door and then Scott jumps out the window.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which I absolutely loved that scene where so visibly he's piecing out, goes back in, grabs his coat.
as well as like moves his head to block him grabbing the coat.
Yes, that is my favorite scene in the whole movie. It's just so fast. Yep. And like unexpected
and so obvious.
And then
he doesn't technically lie, right? Like he's just telling the technical truth as she, like
he just left. And then when the camera turns to face Knives and you see Scott like speed jog in the background.
And her eye just immediately like kind of like goes in that direction. So good.
It's so perfect. It's so well done.
And again, there's a real, stunt. There's a person that jumps through that window.
Oh, it's so funny.
And it's not even just like a regular size window too. It's like those like basement, like half size windows, which makes it even funnier.
That's like somebody really did that too. The timing it's nearly impossible. Like the fact that happened in real life is just
they got a killer stunt team for this movie.
It's incredible.
It's really good.
I feel like they had to like pull him through the window.
Yeah, the stunt work in this movie is fantastic.
It must have been they must have like a trampoline or something. They had to have. The worst part is having to time it because they get the timing with Wallace so perfect, like with his line in the door.
Yeah.
And I imagine the setup for trying this scene was not brief. You know what I mean?
That's what I'm saying. Is like you to not know that wasn't like cut in there, like that jump in through the window, like that's a millisecond. Like
it's not even the timing, it's the aim for me. It's the fact that he aimed it perfectly at this stupid little window in the basement.
Because you have to jump so high because it's a basement window.
Aim enough low so you're not just like hitting the top of it or the ceiling.
Yeah, it's a tough stunt. It's a tough stunt.
Wallace closes the door like an extra inch as if that's going to stop you from noticing someone burst through this window. It's like, if I close the door like an extra inch, there's no way she notices. And it's got like a loud glass shattering noise.
And the fact that he reaches back in for the coat.
Yeah. Well, it's cold. He's a cold guy.
Canada.
He has terrible circulation, clearly.
So great.
Did any of you guys watch Arrested Development?
Oh, yeah.
We talked about before? Okay. So right after this is an Arrested Development reunion. As he's walking away from the scene in the alley, he gets confronted by Mae Whitman playing Roxy. She's Anne in Arrested Development.
Anne?
Her?
Are you sure?
Yeah. Yes.
The bit is that she's plain and like he's dating her for a while and it's like my girlfriend. Her? Anne? But
yeah,
she doesn't look plain in this. They do it better.
I forget her. I don't have the full line written down, but she does like the Southern accent and says like, I just cashed my last rain check. He goes, what's that from? My brain.
My brain.
Yeah.
Greg and I say that all the time.
Yeah. It's so funny.
Yes. Anytime one of us says something and I'm like, we're like, what is that from? We always respond by just yelling, my brain.
My brain. Yes, it comes up on Discord quite a bit.
It's so good. And then after that, he's at the coffee shop. Anna Kendrick like gets out of there, and it's actually Julie behind the.
I
thing,
love
and
that because
she's
that's
got the
another one
black
of those
bars
really,
in her mouth.
the really quick scenes where all of a sudden Andrew Kendrick's just like walking in the background.
Yeah. Sorry, I gotta go.
Well, because like in the setup too, like you don't realize he's right outside there, so you're like, oh, he's gonna immediately be in her work. She's not expecting that, and he gets in there, and she's immediately outside of her work. I don't know.
She was putting
so
her hair
funny.
up at the end of the phone call, and then Aubrey Plaza's putting her hair up when he comes in.
It's so good.
And then Envy's there too.
Yes. And Ramona.
Yes. Everyone's at this coffee shop.
Oh yeah, and Ramona was just like, X, I'm gonna go.
Yeah.
Right?
She's like, oh, the big one? And he's like, yeah. They get booked to open for the Clash of Demon Head, which Scott's upset about. Knives freaks out about Ramona because she sees them through the window
Yes.
and puts blue streaks in her hair. And then there's the whole sequence at Lee's Palace, the Clash of Demon Head show. All that stuff's good.
Is that the time when they mentioned something about the breakup going well with Knives and she's pressed against the window like stalking them?
Knives handling it well.
It's, yeah.
We need stalkers.
Yes.
Their knives
It
and
is.
peers.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
And the fact that, like, it's the text that says Knives Chow, age 17, is really small and it, like, zooms in.
That kind of scene kind of reminds me of like some like Mel Brooks movies a little bit. Like
It's goofy.
Yes, like
Yeah.
it had like I like instantly saw like some like scenes from Spaceballs, like
Yeah,
during a
it's
couple
it's very
scenes
goofy.
like that.
I totally agree. And they play their show and no one really likes them. Then they're at
Yes.
the bar and Knives is hanging out with young Neil now.
Yes.
Young Neil. That's
I
right.
know how to get him back.
Yeah.
Oh my fucking god, young Neil, you're so hot.
Yeah.
That's so great. Like
That's
she's
what it's
17, of
teenagers,
course.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what
Yeah.
works.
It's like Knives Chow, 17.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I felt that. I felt that one really bad.
Yeah.
And then we watch Clash of Demon Head do one song, right? And that's when
Yeah,
Ramona's
you
like, that's Todd.
Yeah.
They both at the same time, they're like, that's Todd.
They perform Black Sheep by Metric.
And they're like, oh no. And then they're like in the back, right?
Yep.
This, I think, is like my favorite fight of all the action.
Yeah. Julie comes out and says, I can't believe I'm saying this, but they want to talk to you in the back.
Yes, yeah, I thought the fight scene with the whole vegan situation just absolutely priceless. Half and half is the winner of
It's
everything.
So good.
You
And
will
when they're
be
like-
gone.
Yeah. When they're like, I never understood how being vegan gave you superpowers. And he's like, yeah, the 10% of your brain, the 90% is all curds and whey.
Yeah.
And they're like, that doesn't make any sense. He's like,
I loved
hey,
that line.
if you knew the science.
Maybe I'd
if you
listen
knew
to
this,
you.
you know how ridiculous you
Yeah.
sound.
One of, yeah.
And the
Which,
whole-
to be fair, if you are moving things with your mind and you're like, yeah, I learned this at vegan school, it's vegan powers, I guess you have a leg to stand on. You can be
Yeah.
like, I know the science, you don't. Be like, I can't move things with my mind. So
And it's so funny because I forgot who said it. Oh, it's Kim. She's like, oh, did you learn that at Vegan Academy? And it sounds like it's a dig. And then like later on, he's
thought it
like, yeah, I went to
was.
Vegan Academy.
my parents sent me to vegan school.
The whole time you're getting this like exposition up too, he's kicking the shit out of Scott. Like Scott's falling out of the air at this point, like into a pile of garbage.
Yeah.
And then I think
Tell it to the cleaning lady on Monday.
Because it's the
What?
weekend. The cleaning lady doesn't come.
that line.
Because by Monday you'll be dust. And the cleaning lady.
yeah,
Monday.
but
Dust.
what's Monday? Today's Friday. She gets the weekends off.
Right?
Right. And this
She dusts.
and this is when Ramona's explaining why she dated him. I think she says he punched a hole in the moon for me or something.
Which was pretty cool.
It was pretty
Yeah.
cool.
That's pretty cool.
He was intense. He punched a hole in the moon for me.
Oh, and before this too, he punches the highlights out of Knives' head.
Yeah, I was gonna. We said you punched the highlights out of her hair. Yeah.
I think I like this one too because a lot happens because Scott just tries to fight him. He's like throwing Scott everywhere and beating the shit out of him. And then Scott tries to have like a base battle against
Yeah.
him. And Scott like is not nearly as good as
No, this other guy's way better. Well, it's a different style. Scott's doing more of a garage thing. He's doing more of like almost an electronic thing.
Yeah.
But more, yeah. It's not. It doesn't work though.
It's super funny too because that and like Scott beats him just by being a piece of shit.
The
What
way
a moral to that.
Aside from like a couple of the fights, he has to like find a different way to beat everybody, which I like.
Yes. I also just like the way they make Todd, like his eyes like smoke and stuff, and like his hair
Yeah.
like floats and
Yeah.
he floats. Like all of it looks really cool.
He pretty much has Superman's moveset.
Yes.
I thought it was a shout out to Superman when they like.
Well, it must be, right?
Probably.
All
And,
right.
and you said that movie came out before, so
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The
funny.
vegan police come and taking away his powers are like some of my favorite lines in the whole movie.
Milk and eggs, bitch.
Yeah. Gelato's not vegan.
Chicken bars.
I love when they say you partook in a plate of chicken parmesan. Envy's face is just like, and
Because
he's,
the gelato, you're like, oh,
yeah, gelato. Yeah, I didn't know. Yeah, chicken's not vegan.
Yeah.
It's so good. It's like
I
one
like
of the
that
best.
his hair loses volume
Yeah.
after they take his powers
Yes,
away.
And the vegan thing is wicked good. Vegan.
He headbutts him so hard he bursts. And Envy's sad about it.
And this is the last we see at Envy too. This like
Yeah.
concludes
yeah.
his
Yeah.
Short and
his
sweet
baggage
and to
with
the
her
point.
for the most part. Yeah.
Very much, yeah. And yeah. Then they move on to the next leg of the boat.
This-
What else happened?
This is when Scott, you kind of start seeing him being an asshole, and he's like kind of being a dick to Ramona.
yeah, he's
Oh,
like
they-
blaming her.
Ramona breaks up with him right after this, doesn't she?
Kind of. They go to they go to Pizza, and then they go to the after party where he fights May
Because
Whitman.
this is where she's like, "Oh, we don't have to go if you don't wanna," and he's like, "I want to go." And she's like, "Are you sure?" And like,
Yeah.
He's like, I don't want to go, and implies that she wants to go, and she's like, I really don't want to go, and he's basically like, yeah,
Fine,
we'll
we'll
go
go
because
then.
you want to go.
Yeah.
yes,
It's one of those things.
Yeah.
And then he drinks, which he's pretty explicitly been avoiding drinking. Throughout the movie.
There's definitely like a couple of digs that are very nuanced that like he has a problem with alcohol.
Yes. And he has a couple gin and tonics.
He orders 2 gin and tonics. And she's like, don't you not drink? And he's like, I do now. Do you want anything or something like that?
Yeah.
yeah. Oh yeah, did you want something?
So on special occasions. Why did you want something? And then, yeah, he has to fight May Whitman, Roxy. Oh, does she
Yes.
know this girl?
And that's this whole time is when he's talking to her about, "Oh, your evil ex-boyfriend," and she's going
Evil
exes.
I loved that.
I was gonna cut you because you said 7 evil ex-boyfriends, and I wanted to like in the synopsis I wanted to be the exes, but I didn't. The timing was just a little.
We'll
You
tell
got
you.
a sexy face.
I didn't say you had a sexy.
Yeah.
I-
This sequence is great.
This one's great too because this one's super like.
I think she has a
comic
big
booky.
mallet.
Yeah, because she just takes out this huge mallet, which has to be the least practical weapon you could ever use, right? And
what she
Roxy has some
has.
kind of sword
Yeah,
whip.
was she in Thor or anything? Was Thor made at this point at all? 'Cause
No.
I-
No. Or around this year, give
I'm
or
thinking
take.
Super Smash Brothers is the vibes I got from that because there's the big mallet they use in
okay.
that a lot.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's all kinds of fighting games that are going into Street Fighter, and
Mm.
I think Mortal Kombat probably the big pulls, especially for like the chain whip. And yeah, this is actually the actors are doing most of the fight choreography in this fight.
Yeah, I love that she's just using Scott as like a ragdoll to fight this.
Yeah, because he won't fight his own battles
Yes.
because he doesn't want to hit a
Oh,
girl.
yeah, that's right. That's right.
And then their weakness is the back of her knee. And she dies saying, "You'll never be able to do this to her."
Yes. Yes.
Great.
Explodes. And I think this is when he asks her like for the rundown on all the exes, but is like a dick about it. And she's like, "Oh, you want me to just give you a laminated list?" And then she
Yeah.
leaves. And then like the next scene is like she comes back like 2 seconds later and hands him the laminated list of all the exes.
That's right.
Yeah. And she basically like kind of breaks it off, at least for the night, but maybe there's a little bit more weight. And he says like, "Oh, she dated twins?" Because on the next people on the list are the Katinagi twins.
Kyle and Ken.
Yes. Yep.
And it turns out that's also who they're facing next in the Battle of the Bands in an amp versus amp scenario. And this sequence is awesome too. There's also the introduction of Jason Schwartzman out in the crowd.
I think too at the after party is when Ramon is talking to him like about like his baggage, like, well, you know, because he's like, oh, you always are the dumper, you never the dumpy. And she's like, well, what about like all these people that you've like had things with? He's like, what about Kim? And she's like, me and Kim have always been fine. And you're like, turns to Kim and she's like,
Kim's just staring at her, at him.
Like, what about Knives? And she's like, no, something like that.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, no, they're all fine.
They're all great. Right. Yeah. He has like no perspective on himself.
Yes, I love it.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, the next battle is the Amp versus Amp, and I think it's a cool sequence.
Yes.
I think that sign needs more exclamation points.
Yeah. Yeah, Kim's got all the best lines. Yeah. I don't know. It's hard not to just look at parts of the movie and be like, this one was good too. I liked it.
This is another one too where like Kim is like really like motivating them in this like thing too. She's like, it does it a couple times where she like starts the songs and she's like the can-do attitude of it. And I'm always like, it's really Scott's battle. And why did I don't want to?
Kim's the only one that wants to be in a band. They all want to be like part of a band. She wants to make music, you know, like
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's probably even a shot that Scott refers to Steven as the talent, right? Where Kim's like, what the, come on.
like she's the one that keeps them on track. She's the one
I
that just
assume
like we're here to like
Steven's actually
make
writing the
music.
songs,
Real
but
hero.
yeah, for sure. We agree on this. And this is great. I like how the music's overlapping and then eventually it's like, you know, sort of in harmony until one overpowers the other one and then those people go flying.
Yeah,
It's good.
it's great.
They make like a big Yeti that fights a dragon.
Yeah, everything about it is just fun. Like the music, it's just good. Like it gets you like in a nice like beat, and then like the visuals really cool.
It is really cool. I think I liked it a little bit less than the other ones just because the fight choreography is so cool in this movie.
Yes.
That it is
Yeah.
really nice to have it.
Yeah. It's like the third act fight of a Marvel movie where you're like, oh, it's just CGI again.
It is really cool though, because I do like it too. Every time they get like blown away and they're like actually like, whoa, and like spinning and stuff.
Yes. Those poor non-athletes had to do all that wire work.
I just think it was a fun take on a battle of the bands because it
Yes.
was like the
Yeah.
bands were actually battling. I don't know.
Yes.
I liked it.
Yeah, that's a good point. And then he goes out into the audience. Knives is there after he says, I'm getting a life.
Yeah,
and
he
takes
gets
his life.
his free
He's
life.
the +1. Knives is there, and you're like, oh man, Knives was way too cool for Scott. Just much too good for him. And then he goes out there outside and where he meets up with Ramona, and she breaks up with him because he says that he's in lesbians with her.
Yes. He tells her.
I said lesbians.
Or at least in his mind, that's why she breaks up with him. And then Gideon's there. He meets G-Man.
Yeah, and they
Gideon.
signed the contract with him too, right there, right?
Oh, yeah. Scott doesn't sign it though. He's out.
He's out.
Yes, he's out of the sex bombs.
It's so funny too because he like right before that he's like, "Oh, Neil can fill in for me. I'm not important." And it was like, "Well, you're gonna have to find someone else." And Neil can do it.
Yep.
Yeah, he knows
They
all
all
my
sign
parts.
it and they're in with a 3-album contract. Then there's a sad montage to Beck playing an acoustic guitar. And then it's the first time he goes to the Chaos Theater after he gets a call from Gideon, who's a real asshole.
Yes.
Yes,
Jason Schwartzman just having a great time
and
being a dick.
And Kendrick gives him a little like motivational speech too at this point.
Oh, it's so pathetic.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like next time don't pick the girl with 11 evil ex-boyfriends. And she's like 7. Oh, that's not that bad.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that
really-
so much.
Yeah.
Like,
It's
oh,
not
that
that
made the
much
difference.
sympathy.
Over
Yeah.
10, that's excessive. 7,
That's not that bad.
Yeah, you should just kind of buck up, dude.
I like too when he when Gideon says that yeah, Ramona's my girl's here with me or something. Scott screams. He's like, "Oh, don't worry, it's not that bad." Or something. He's like, "I know, I spilled hot cocoa on my crotch."
Just find me another actor on this planet that could do that scene that is not Michael Cera. Like
And-
it does not work with anyone else.
And I like this part too because this is Wallace just gave him the like move on, buddy speech,
Yeah.
and then after he has Gideon on the phone, he's like, "I changed my mind.
that's
Yeah.
Go kick his ass." Because Wallace on several of the fights, he's like, "Scott, fight that guy.
Yeah.
you gotta fight him.
Evil X.
Yeah.
Fight.
Fight."
Yeah.
I don't know what dynamic they're trying to play at, but there's definitely like there's something there where like Scott needs him to be like, oh, fight, and then he has his powers or whatever. Do you know, like it feels like very like formulaic. Like I feel like that's a mechanic somewhere. I don't know.
Some sort of video game reference, right?
Yeah,
There's some video game where they'll like when the fight starts, they say fight. Like they need the person to say fight.
Somebody has to like. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, like every fighting game starts with
Someone
fight.
yells fight.
Someone yells fight. Mortal Kombat.
yeah.
I think basically all of them.
Yes.
I love the passwords on the way in.
Yes.
I don't care.
Cool.
They're better the second time though.
They are better the second time.
The whole second time is better.
It is funny though, because like I said, I just rewatched this. So the first time they're going through, I had that same thought where I was like, oh, I really like these passwords. And then like I couldn't quite remember what happened the second time. And I was like, oh, I love this better. I don't know. It's great.
Yeah, I love
great.
even because the first time Gideon tells them to play, and Kim's like, "We're the Sex Bombs. We're here to sell out and make money."
Yeah. And they don't play, and they play it like fast, but not as fast as they'll play it later. And he defeats all the goons, but then gets killed by Gideon.
The lyrics are funny too. I forgot what they were, but I remember paying attention to the subtitles with the first songs.
They're like about being sad and like we're having no fun.
No fun.
No fun. Yeah.
Yeah. So he falls to Gideon in combat
He
after
gets the power of love.
he gets the power of love at first, but
Yeah.
it's
You want to
shattered.
fight me for her? Wasn't I clear?
Yeah. Was I not clear?
And is that the scene that Knives interrupts it?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. So Knives pops out, and they're fighting each other up top. And Scott, after thinking that he dispatches Gideon, goes up to break up the fight, and kind of doesn't really take responsibility for cheating on both of them.
Yeah, not really.
And then he gets stabbed.
Yes. I like during this scene that Gideon's glasses have like a blue X in them. Like a little,
It's good.
yeah,
good
it's
stuff.
got like a holographic blue X on both lenses of his glasses. I don't know why I like that.
He dies. He's in the brain highway subspace through the desert thing. Ramona says that he literally has a way of getting to my head.
He's like, that's evil.
Yeah.
That's so evil.
That's so
There's the chip on the back of her neck, and it's like the Triforce, but with G's. And then, he goes back.
I think it's
He
funny
kills
too,
everybody.
because at that point in the movie, you're probably at a feeling of like, man, Scott kind of sucks. So you're not sold that Gideon is like, well, if she just wants to be with Gideon, she can be with Gideon. And like, I love the reveal of like, no, he actually he's mind controlling me.
Yeah,
This is a problem.
This is where I actually got confused though. So how could, if Scott dies, how can he get, how is he
I'm
not
glad you
dead?
asked. Greg knows.
Yeah.
Is it because of the twins?
After
he
they beat
takes the life.
After he beats the twins, a little like plus a 1-up comes, like a free life.
Oh, see, I
From
totally
like
missed.
Mario, basically, and he grabs it. So he
Yeah.
has an extra life, like
Okay.
a save, basically.
I totally, I did miss that, and I was so confused. And Derek's like, "Oh, it was because of the twins," and I was like, "Wait, what?"
Yeah, because
Yeah.
after he like when he's like, I feel like I learned something, the 1-up shows up again, and he grabs it, and then it restarts him at the end of the twins fight, and it like speeds you through everything really
okay.
quick.
Yeah. When
Okay.
when he leaves the stage after that battle, I think Steven asks him, like, what are you doing? And he says, getting a life. And he literally like takes a +1 life out of the air.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then he cashes it in there, and he goes back in time to then, and it fast forwards. He kills the bouncers instead of giving them passwords.
Yep.
He goes in there, says,
He apologizes to Kim. He upgrades young Neil to Neil.
yeah, now on you will be known as Neil.
Yeah. And he tells Steven they sound way better without him.
Yep.
Apologize to Kim, and then
Says he has beef.
yes, I got beef. And that's when he's like, "You're fighting me for her," and he's like, "No, I'm fighting you for me." And then he gets the power of self-respect. And then the
Scott
Sex
is
Bomb
her
play a
power of
good
self-respect.
song this time.
Yeah. Much faster. He kills the guys a lot faster. He takes out Gideon, or so he thinks.
Does this mean no contract?
Yeah. And then he calls Knives out, and he apologizes to both of them. And Gideon and them, they all have a big fight. And they do like the 2-player mode with him and Knives fighting Gideon. It's good.
It's really good. I really like that last fight against Gideon.
I like when Gideon's hitting Ramona and just says bad.
Yeah,
Bad.
bad. bad.
It is bad. You shouldn't do that. He shouldn't
No, it's
have
bad.
done that. And he's so mad when he dies.
Yes, I'm what's blowing up right now.
Yep. You are blown up right now.
I love that he becomes like 1,000,000 coins too, and it's just fucking raining coins.
Wow. Yeah, wow. Yeah. And then, yeah, like you said, they don't have a contract anymore, so Steven starts trying to grab all the quarters.
Gotta grab all the quarters.
then the last-
right idea. I mean, grab all those quarters.
Yeah,
There's
that's
a
a
lot of
lot.
them.
And then the last big joke of the movie, Negascott comes.
Negascott.
Oh my god.
Solo round.
No. I'll deal with this.
Yeah. And then it cuts to Ramona and Knives waiting outside, and he just walks out with Negascott, and they're talking about brunch.
Yes.
He's a cool guy. We actually have a lot in common.
It's so funny.
So neither one of us wants to fight, huh? Nope.
Yeah, because he has self-respect now, so he respects Negascott, and they come to an agreement, and he gets out of his own way finally.
It's fair.
Outside, they start talking. Ramona is like leaves Knives and Scott alone. Like, okay, they're obviously gonna like figure whatever out. So she's like, I ought to disappear. And then Knives is again way too cool for Scott. So she's like, you should go after her. You were fighting for her this whole time. And he
Should
does.
go be with young Neil.
Yeah, what makes her happy? I don't know. She's much too cool for probably any of them. Definitely for Scott.
Well, young Neil was too cool for him too.
This is true. And Scott's not in the band anymore, so it wouldn't be awkward at rehearsals.
No, and that's why it was good for him to go with Ramona too, because he can fuck off. Like Scott also
Kinda,
needs
yeah.
to get
He
out
doesn't
of there.
have a
like
job.
Or a house anymore.
doesn't have a job, does not
Or-
have a place
or a
to
bed.
live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was evicted from Wallace's.
Makes his band
Literally
member.
does not have a
Also,
bed.
I forgot to point it out, but I thought it was hilarious that somehow Wallace lives across the street from his childhood home.
That was so
It's just so like it's a huge house. There's probably no reason why he couldn't just still live at home.
Yes.
Like
Sad
Also,
for you.
I'm
it's a whole joke that's just not touched on.
There's the joke too where more people keep sitting up in the bed because it's like Scott,
like
and
4
Wallace,
boyfriends or something.
and
Jimmy.
Jimmy, and the other Wallace's boyfriend.
And then his sister's boyfriend.
Yes.
Oh,
It's good. So yeah, Knives tells him to go after Ramona, and he says, "Hey, mind if I go with you?" And then they go through another door. That's the end of the movie.
Yep. It's great.
Have you guys seen the alternate ending?
No.
No.
Ooh. Does the world win in this one?
So first off, do you think this is the correct ending? Because there is a debate online, and obviously Scott shouldn't date a 17-year-old, but there is like, obviously the counter argument to the end of this movie, I guess, would be that like obviously Scott and Ramona aren't going to work out, and like he should have stuck around in Toronto, whether he's dating Knives or not. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I like this ending. I feel like he doesn't have anything left for him in Toronto. And like Toronto is just baggage. Like
That's-
the reason Ramona left to Toronto.
And that's the reason why she's leaving again. And then I think if you're missing the interpretation of Scott learned the power of self-worth or self-respect. Like he's going with her because now they're both on a journey of self-importance, not I'm following her because I'm a lost puppy or like because I love
Yeah.
her. You know, I don't know.
Yeah, he's like less pathetic.
He's less pathetic now, yeah. And he can go grow and be a person that doesn't live across the street from the house he grew up with in a 1-bedroom with,
Yeah. What do you think about the ending?
I feel like I would hate him more if it didn't end this way. Because like to Robbie's point, like he's learned like self-respect. So if he kind of just stays the way he is, it's like then you learned nothing. This movie like didn't teach, like this story didn't teach you anything. Unless we wanted him just to be an asshole and like we just end it on a note of like he's just this perpetual asshole. So I don't know. The ending was satisfying to me.
Yeah, and you're looking up what the actual ending is.
Maybe.
So the alternate ending in the movie, which is like fully filmed and on the featurettes, so it wasn't even just a storyboard. They actually filmed this. Ramona just leaves, and Scott starts dating Knives again. And it's they have a similar but pretty crucially different conversation, him and Ramona outside, where she's like, I'm just going to disappear again. Past keeps catching up to me or whatever, which is something like what she says in the movie cut. And he goes, yeah, I can understand like not wanting the people around you to get hurt or whatever. And so she leaves. She goes through the door by herself. Scott walks away with knives holding hands. And there's voiceovers from a couple different characters talking about like, oh my God, Scott Pilgrim just killed Gideon Graves at the Chaos Theater. It was crazy. Someone should have videoed that. And then there's like a montage of him and Knives doing the ninja game. And then it ends on the countdown on the screen of the ninja game as opposed to in the sky.
Okay. Major problem with that.
Well, is that he's still dating a 17-year-old at the end of the movie?
Yes, exactly. And it also like gives this moral of the story, not to be like all like feminist here, but it kind of would give all 17-year-olds this moral of the story of like, yeah, you can get cheated on and still be with that person. Like everything's fine. Everything's going to go back to the way it was. And I'm just not really down for that vibe.
Scott seems like more of a whatever, but it's still like she should experience not Scott for a while.
Exactly. Like I'm
it's
glad that,
not a good ending for her.
No, but
worry
like
about that character.
Yeah,
let's be at peace with that, and it shouldn't have been that way from the beginning just because of the age difference.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that. Like, let her live her life. Scott, do your own thing. Find some self-respect and move on.
That's like the whole thing with the dating a 17-year-old, because everybody jumps to right away that it's not right, which I agree with. That should be your gut reaction. So the circumstances, because I put a lot of thought into this, I'm sorry, but the circumstances for them meeting where they randomly bumped into each other on the bus. Age of consent is fine in Canada. It's 16. Drinking age in Canada is 19. So the age gap of 5 years isn't as big of a deal, I don't feel like, when you both are on that similar drinking level. Whatever. That's all aside of like, is it morally right or not? Gray area still. But the big saving grace for this whole like bullshit relationship that he stumbled his way into, not really looking for, was that even with all that, they didn't even hold hands. And like, so he knew, like, he could have been in the moral clear to do more than that, but even still held himself back. So to undo that and have them end up together anyway is like, I don't know.
Yes. Yeah. You can sort of like hand wave it the way it is in the movie, because it's like, well, nothing ever happened. They kind of just hung out.
Right.
They were basically just friends.
And my point is like, he didn't go through the normal predatory steps to go out of his way and find a 17-year-old. He found himself with a 17-year-old. And if it had been a healthy relationship, it probably would have been fine. Like her point, her parents had a 9-year gap and an age difference. Yeah. I don't know.
A lot of the characters make comments because Scott does just kind of hang out with her, and they make comments about how he's just babysitting.
Yeah.
Because he ran into her and her mom on the bus. Like,
yeah, but
are you allowed to date outside your race?
what an asshole.
Well, that's horrible. Like,
he says, I don't care.
He's trying to look for an excuse, and she's basically like, yeah, I'm fine with this, and my parents are fine with this. Like,
so that the movie cut versus the alternate ending, I prefer the movie cut, I think.
Yeah,
where he ends up with Ramona leaving to some unknown location.
For sure.
Yeah, that's I would be sad if it ended without him ending up with Ramona after all that.
Yeah.
Although, how would we feel about him not ending up with anyone?
That might be better.
Yeah.
That's better, but I think like Knives says, like, you fought for her the whole time. You know what I mean? It would feel so weird that after. I mean, I guess then there could be something about more. It was like his journey of himself. It doesn't, you know what I mean?
It would be a different movie. Like, it would be a good ending, and like, I think that's a good arc for a different type of more serious movie.
It would turn serious.
It would be very serious. But for the movie to have a satisfying ending, you want them to just have that, like, don't think about it too much. Don't expect that they're going to be married in the future. I don't want to see Scott Pilgrim 2 with their children running around. Like, they'll have fun together for a while and go their separate ways.
It kind of like, it's such a different vibe and it's such a different movie, but it kind of reminds me of like The Truman Show. Anyone watch The Truman Show? Where like at the very end, like he has a choice to either leave because he finds out the truth, and he fought so hard in like for like 10 minutes, for like 10 minutes to get out of that scene. Then he finds out the truth, and it's like, imagine if he just stayed. Like, then it's like, that's the way the movie ends.
Right, yeah.
You know,
yeah.
so like,
I
I feel like it's like the same, it's the same kind of vibe of like, no, I'm appreciative that it ended the way it did.
Yeah, he's in sort of an arrested development state, literally. And this is like him kind of, getting liftoff at the end of the movie. He still lives within, 100 feet of his childhood home.
By the way, I didn't mean to ruin Truman Show for you.
Yeah, it's fine. I know the whole plot, basically, of the...
Yeah. Yeah. So, what's your favorite song in Scott Pilgrim versus the World?
Garbage truck.
It's Garbage Truck.
Garbage Truck.
I like Threshold. That's good. I like
Garbage
that.
Truck, like I was laughing
I'll
during
be your
that one.
garbage man.
Yeah.
Launchpad McQuack, maybe.
Yeah, it's good too.
Truck.
I can't think of any of the names. The only I have the
You can just sing
and I think I might be fucking that up.
I think that's
I don't know.
Launchpad McQuack.
Might be Launchpad with Quack.
I used to sing.
No,
I used to sing the garbage truck song to my daughter, like when she was a baby.
Fantastic.
Really?
Yep. Yeah, I used to sing it to her.
Nice.
I thought it was funny.
It's funny.
Oh my God. It's so great.
Be your garbage man.
I'm trying to get to the metric song's really good too, Black Sheep. And I guess technically there's a Rolling Stones song in this one too that you could pick, but you don't have to. So, I'm trying to get better. Last month we had a better version of this, but trying to pick some connective tissue, like a question to ask on each of the episodes to tie the themes together. Would you go to a musical performance by any of the artists in this film?
I mean, I went to worse.
What do you mean? Like one of the bands in this?
Yeah, I mean, I went to Warped Tour.
Crashing the Boys. At least it'd be short. As a parent,
As a parent,
I can
yes.
appreciate a concert that would be over in under 10 minutes.
It's nice that every set in that a band plays in this movie is less than 5 minutes long.
Yes.
Get home
Not
early.
a race, asshole.
I have a feeling Clash of Demon Head probably actually be good.
Yeah, I actually like the Clash of Demon Head performance.
Yeah.
And listening to her sing, I was like, I feel like this is something I would have listened to.
Yeah. It's tough, right? Because that's
Was
I
it
do like
Brie
Metric.
Larson singing?
That I think there's versions that are her singing, but I think that was just the Metric song.
Okay.
Emily Haynes, I want to say, is the front lady for Metric. And then, Sex Bomb, like I said, is just Beck. I've seen Beck, so I guess his music normally sounds different than that. But
Like I said before you guys came over, I reread the first book, and they show Crash and the Boys doing their concert, and they the whole time they're just commenting about how awful Crash and the Boys are. Everyone's like, "Wow, this sucks," and then Crash and the Boys, their last song is "Let's kill the audience," and they're like, "Wait, they can't be serious," and then Steven's like, "Oh no," he's like, "They don't actually die, but it knocks them unconscious for about 20 to 30 minutes," and he's like, "But we're playing next." And then they go out on stage and the whole audience is just laying on the ground.
that's fantastic.
I feel like they do a good job of making Clash of Demon Head seem like there could be a real band that would be famous, while Sex Bomb is clearly a garage band.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. So this is a Edgar Wright movie, as we said before. It's the only movie he makes during the Cornetto trilogy. So Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz. Then he makes this, then World's End. I don't know. You guys like his movies? He's also made Baby Driver and Last Night in Soho since then.
I've only seen a couple of his. I think what were the first couple you mentioned?
Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, World's End.
I've seen the first two of those. And I like those. Those are good. They're funny.
Yeah, I also haven't seen the end of the Cornetto trilogy. I feel like I need to wait since I've been on a podcast for at least one of them.
And I feel like the only one I've seen is Hot Fuzz.
Yeah, it's going to take a while for us to get to the World's End, but it's a good movie. You could check it out. I think less people just in general have seen that one. Fewer people. Sorry, grammar.
That's fair.
Wait, didn't he also do Ant-Man?
So it's funny. He was supposed to do Ant-Man,
That's what
but he had too many good ideas, so Disney fired him.
Oh, that sounds like Disney.
He wanted to do too much of his own thing, I guess. So he did get fired. He still has a writing credit on the first Ant-Man.
Okay.
But it's an all-star cast and crew. Bill Pope is the director of photography on this, the cinematographer. He's worked with Sam Raimi a lot. He's on Army of Darkness and the second Spider-Man movie that Sam Raimi made. He's also the guy that shot the Matrix movies. So then you get him for this. Kind of makes sense. Yeah, good movie. Good people involved. Like you mentioned before, the craft of it is just so fine-tuned in like every aspect.
Yeah, just put together love.
Yeah.
Probably freeze every frame and pick out like 6 jokes that go along with what's going on at any given moment.
For real. All right, well, let's get to ratings unless there's any other more expansive thoughts anyone wants to get out there. Every week, we'll take the ratings that we put into this segment of the show, and I'll put them on Letterboxd. And when I say every week, we'll do the ratings every week. When I put them on Letterboxd, who can say, on any scale of your choosing, aside from stars, give this movie a rating from 0.5 to 5. And you can go up by halves.
Why don't I ever think of this ahead of time?
No one does. That's the beauty of it.
Yeah, I always forget. I'm ready though. I'm gonna give it.
There's one really obvious one.
Can I do out of 7? No. I'm gonna give it 4.5 out of 5 vegan chicken parms.
Okay. I appreciate you not taking the easy one.
5 out of 5 boyfriends stolen by Wallace.
Nice.
It's a good one.
Perfect.
It's a good one.
5 out of 5. My brains.
It's good.
5 out of 5 evil exes.
I like it. I didn't think you'd take it. I was like, I was going to take it if no one else did. It would just be weird if no one took it, was my thinking.
7
I am also going to give this a 5 out of 5, like everyone aside from Greg. And mine is 5 out of 5 pieces of bread, parentheses, which make you fat.
Bread makes you fat?
I almost did that one.
Yeah.
Wait, I have one final question relating to this movie.
Yes, please.
If this movie came out today, would it bomb again? Like first time released?
I don't think so, because even Last Night in Soho made money, and that movie, it's not good.
I was gonna say, like, I'm still surprised this movie bombed. I think there had to have been a lot of combination of factors to make it bomb. If this was released like even like a little pre-COVID or now, I feel like this maybe I'm wrong, because even at the time I was like, this movie's great. How could this thing fucking bomb? But
I think audiences have caught up to the pace.
Yeah. It was too smart. It was too smart for your audiences. It was too smart for me. I didn't like it when I first saw it.
Yeah, people are not currently burned out on Michael Cera. We're all really excited to see him play Alan in the Barbie movie this summer. So I think there's a few different factors, but I don't know. It's weird. It's kind of IP, but it's not like a big, huge, can't miss kind of IP. And those movies aren't really making a ton of money right now, but it can't do worse than it did when it actually came out. Thanks for being on. The guests this week for Scott Pilgrim versus the World was Ray, Greg, Martha, and Robbie.
bye.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Bye.
Jesus.
My brain.
You can find us on Stitcher, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iTunes, Google Podcasts, Podbean. You can Google us and find it wherever you get your Google results.
Just Google normally.
Yeah. What's the website for that?
Google.
I wanted someone to ask me, but it was fine. You can email Noah at late2themovies@gmail.com. You can look at our Instagram, late2themovies_podcast. I think that's everywhere we are. Have a good night. I'm assuming you're listening to this at night. If not, you did it wrong. I don't know. I also don't know how to end the show. I'm sorry.
Just end it with I'm sorry.
I'm sorry for not putting in the Beau is Afraid timestamps last episode.
And he's sorry for not paying his livable wages. Good night, everybody.
Good night.